It often means for me when I feel fear or anxious that I'm on the right path. Yep. That it is something that is going to now make me expand and make me better and is valuable to my life. So I don't look at fear as something to stop me, but something to push me forward.
Without Fear of Her Future podcast is for women who are passionately pursuing financial freedom using multiple streams of income in real estate to accomplish their goals. We are here to empower you to be brave, dream big, and design a life that you love that inspires others to do the same. I'm your co-host, Andrea Engstrom, a real estate investor and business coach, and co-founder of the Partnership for Realtors. I'm here with my co-host, Tresa Todd, founder of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and author of the best-selling book, Without Fear of Her Future. Over the past 2 years, Tresa has had nearly 200,000 join her masterclass, where she teaches women how to become successful real estate investors. Hey, Tresa.
Hey, Andrea. Well, another fantastic guest today. So we're going to talk about what happens when you buy a fixer-upper that is a total scrape. Mindy Francis found herself with 3 properties in her first year as a real estate investor that ended up being a better deal to scrape the lot and build new. Here's how she navigated the process of building from the ground up as a brand new investor. So, Mindy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity to let me share my story and experiences.
Well, I know that our viewers are going to love this today. So just start out by telling us where you're from, where you live, and where are you primarily investing?
Okay. I'm originally from Utah, grew up there, got married there, moved to Texas, 2010. We bought a dental practice here. My husband bought a second dental practice here and started a real estate business since then. Or started an interior design business that led into real estate. And I primarily invest in the DFW area, but also north of DFW, outside in a little bit more rural areas, where these 3 new builds are that we're going to talk about are in Honey Grove, which is a tiny little podunk town that nobody hears of. You might have heard of Bonham and you might have heard of Harris, but nobody knows where Honey Grove is. It's kind of in between those two.
Okay. Well, tell us about your life and career. What did it look like before you started investing in real estate?
Like I mentioned, it was interior design. When we got here to Texas, my twin sister and I started renovating the dental practice that we bought, and then we renovated her husband's dental practice, and it kind of just snowballed into realtors were calling, and we just started from scratch, and it ended up being mostly whole house remodels or full kitchen remodels or full bathroom remodels. And so it was more construction based. And so it kind of gradually went into construction and design, of course, because you have to pick the finishes, but more so construction side of things.
Okay. How awesome. Well, and then I just picked up something that I just have to mention. Okay. So you have a twin sister who is also married to a dentist.
Yes, I do. And then I have 3 other sisters who are also married to dentists, and my dad was a dentist.
Your dad was a dentist. This explains everything.
Yeah, and he just taught y'all, you're going to marry a dentist. You're going to marry.
Yes. But it was never intentional. It just kind of happened that way. Luckily, we have one sister whose husband was a police officer, and so he brought the flavor into the family party. So we didn't talk root canals and cleanings all day. We had something that we could actually talk about.
How fun.
But it's pretty great. We're pretty blessed.
Yeah. I love it. So what made you decide to transition from, doing design projects to actually becoming a real estate investor?
Well, when I was little, and I thought back to this, when I was little, I was drawn to, I think it was 7 or 8. I was, I'd get up on a Saturday morning and I'd flip on the TV and watch This Old House. And I was 7 or 8, and I did it for years. I loved it. Back then, that was the HGTV of our time, right?
Yeah.
So I always, since I was little, had that draw for construction, that draw for making things pretty. And it excited me then. And once I kind of moved into the remodeling, it was the perfect transition to flip my own houses and do this as my own business, just because it was the natural progression.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about what you've done in real estate over the past year and a half since you joined the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and went through the mentorship. What kind of deals have you done?
Okay. So I've done the 3 scrapes and new builds that we talked about. I've done 2 other flips since prior to and during that time. I'm working on a large flip in Keller, which is here in the DFW area. And then I've got a new build that I'm working on. I'm waiting for permits in Dallas, and that one's going to be a luxury build. That one's going to be the honeypot. I'm hoping we can get that one going soon. And future will be apartments. So I've diversified a little bit and done a little bit of everything. I know a lot of people say stick to one, no one, and that's a great strategy. But for me, I'm all over the place. I want a little bit of all the things.
Yeah.
So I'm trying them all.
Yeah. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I wanted to talk about the process of building a new home on an existing lot. So how did you decide that that was the best strategy?
Okay. So I initially bought these 3 homes thinking, oh, I'm going to flip them. They were in terrible condition and I knew they were bad, but I had spoken to a couple of contractors and I had thought, well, you know, we'll take them down to the studs. I've done that before. We can take them down to the studs, no problem. But when we got there, one was actually condemned after I had them under contract. So one was condemned. Mm-hmm. And at the time, the contractor I had said, you know, really with the one that's a tear down, we'll have the equipment, we'll have the dumpsters. Let's just scrape all 3 and we'll start over. I think I can build these for, you know, a relatively low amount. So let's just do that. It'll cost us less time and less money. Mm-hmm. Took his word for it and said, okay. So we started the process.
Okay. I love it. Well, how did you find these contractors and how do you go about selecting one to do the new build?
Okay. That's a story. Of course, there's always a story with the contract.
Absolutely, there is.
And I was really naive. I took this contractor's word for what he was telling me, and I shouldn't learn a lot of lessons in not doing that ever again. He was working on another project, another flip for me, so I trusted him. There was a little bit of relationship there that I kind of felt secure with. So I'm like, well, whatever you say, I'm going to believe because you've done well for me in the past and I'm just going to trust you. And okay, well, we can build these for, you know, really inexpensive and I've done something similar recently and we'll just build them. And so I just jumped in and it didn't go so well. He ended up taking about $45,000 just to scrape the project and was threatening liens if I didn't pay him more. So at that point, I decided I was forced to find another contractor. Mm-hmm. And luckily, just with meeting with some of the wholesalers and meeting with some of the contractors through the wholesalers, I found another one that was finishing a McKinney flip for me. And he was able to step in and put a crew on and help save the day. But I didn't do everything right with that contractor either. But again, lots of lessons learned.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just have to, if you hear me speak, I always say that finding contractors is probably the most difficult part of this job and keeping them and all of those things. But I hate to say that. I mean, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it to find them because there's still so much money to be made. But you just have to know going in, Mindy, just like you, that you may have to change contractors, 2-3 times, even in one project. It's not uncommon.
It's true. You have to be able to pivot and pick up the pieces when someone robs you blind and go a different route and just make it work. You have to do that. And even if you trust them, you may not and probably shouldn't trust them. Even if you feel good in your heart, make sure you have the contracts, make sure you have the budgets, make sure you have the signed documents, all the things, because your heart might be saying, oh, this guy's great.
Yep.
But he may not end up being great.
Yep. You have to check on those projects as well. You have to go out there and check in, see if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So what are the things that you ask for? Like, I know you said budgets, contracts, et cetera, but like, what do you ask for in terms of, do you ask for references, or do you go look at their other projects that they've done, or pictures, or what else do you look for to do your due diligence, knowing what you know today? What do you do to make sure that it's going to be a good fit moving forward?
Yes, thanks for that question. I look for, I spend a lot of time with the contractor, talking with the contractor. I also look for work that's been done. I want to see not just pictures. I don't really care about pictures because they don't mean anything to me. I want to see the work firsthand. I want to see how they work with their crew, how they talk to their crew. One thing that I've found with this contractor that has a crew of 50 that I'm working with now, he is so positive and he's so uplifting, and he's always appreciating his staff and his crew. And that goes so far, because if he's that way with his staff, he's that way with you, and he's that way with everybody he works with, and you know the kind of person he is. So look at the little things, not only just, the numbers and the references on paper and all of that, but look at the nuances that you may not think about.
That's great advice.
So what was the total timeline to build a new project? Because I think a lot of people are like, that sounds really exciting. And then they go talk to a builder, and the builder's like, yeah, we're booked 2 years out. So that'll be done in 3 years. And we're like, what? That's not even possible.
It's, it varies. Of course it varies. I got lucky in the fact that I had a crew that could jump on as soon as that other contractor was gone.
Yeah.
It put us about 2 months behind the 8 ball because of the scrape and the dishonesty and all that, and clearing it up and moving forward. But this project itself, the actual builds of all 3 homes, start to finish, just from once we scraped them and we got the new contractor, was 4.5 months. It was faster than some of my foot.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could not be more happy with that.
Yeah.
That being said, the deadline came and went because of the extra time, and the contractor I had was driving 2 hours one way to get to the site. Anyway, it was lengthy that way, and we had to extend the loan, and we had to pay more points and interest. So it got a little sticky that way. So be careful with timelines. I think that that's really huge. And also set expectations of what you want to have happen if you don't reach your timeline, and have it in writing.
Yeah.
One thing I learned that I think is huge that I will do from here on out is get it in writing, saying this is the finish date. And, be realistic. It may take a month longer. We know builds, all the things that are delayed. We get that. But have a date set, and then have the contractor sign and agree to the fact that if he goes over a certain amount of days, his fee will be reduced every day that it goes past. So it holds him accountable, it holds him motivated, and it holds you in a better position for when you extend and when you have more points due. That for me was a huge lesson.
Yep. So have you, because we've had conversations about trying to do some of that in our area, but it feels like where we're from, a contractor feels like they're doing you a favor to do your project, and they aren't willing to sign things like that, or maybe we just haven't met the right one. So how do you position that with them?
We do run into that as well. And sometimes you may not get them to do that because they just say it's too variable, it's too unpredictable, and they won't do that. I would hold back a reserve and just say, if you're not willing to sign this, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to give you the statement that I'm signing that says I'm holding this money back. And if we don't meet the deadline, or if we go over to an extended period of time, then I'm going to deduct from this amount, and I won't pay you this set amount. I think that's one way you could handle. I'm sure there's many others.
One of the things that we do also is we offer a bonus if they do finish early or on time, because
that would be huge.
Yeah. And I mean, even if it's on time, that's better. I mean, I'd rather pay a bonus for being on time, because again, that keeps them motivated. And I remind them of that bonus pretty regularly. Is, listen, your bonus time is up in, there's 21 days, and I really want you to get that. So what can we do to get this thing going?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. And it keeps them happy, and they know that they're valued. So there's a lot of benefits to that.
Yeah.
That's huge. I'll try that.
So one of the things with new builds, I think that people get overwhelmed with, like, there's different information you need to be asking the city for, and what are all the things we need to know, like permission and permits and all this stuff. So what kind of information did you have to gather before starting that project or starting one of those scrape new build projects?
Okay. Permits, they're always a deal, right?
Yep.
Luckily in Honey Grove, they're not a deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a small town. I walked in the city office. I got the permits the same day, and I walked out, and the inspector was there. A quick text, "Hey, inspector, we're ready for electrical. He's over in 20 minutes, and we're done." Okay, so that was a huge blessing.
Yeah.
That being said, that is not always the case. My
Right.
Dallas project, we signed almost 6.5 months ago, and we're still waiting for Dallas permits.
Yeah.
So it can be a really big, timely, expensive. I mean, with that one, I think I'm already in like $50K just in interest because we're waiting or more. One thing I think I've learned is don't try to do permits by yourself, and especially in a sticky city where what happens in Dallas, and it may be the same for other areas, is they have so many permits that they subcontract them out, the permits to get done by somebody else. But then once they're outside of Dallas, they don't regulate it or follow up to make sure they're getting done. So mine's just been sitting on a desk for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do something. I got my contractor involved. He found a professional who deals with Dallas every single day in permits. And it's worth the extra money, ladies, to pay someone who knows how to do it, who has relationships with the permit offices, who can get what we need really quickly and move the process along. So I'm 2 weeks into that process with him, and I think we should have permits by next week.
Wow. That's a good lesson learned.
Trust.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
Okay.
they can be tricky. Definitely, or you may have this simple, easy thing. It just depends. But find an expert and pay them if you have to.
I agree. What was your role in the new project? How does managing a new build differ from managing a flip?
I thought about that, and there's several things that differ. For me, it was my contractor and myself, so I ran the entire show. I did the accounting, I did the budgeting, I did the draw requests, I picked the plans, which is something we should talk about. I did all the interior design. I did the scope of work. I picked the finishes, start to finish. It was me. So that in itself, going from the ground up, is just more work, more time, more supplies, more organization. So at Flip, you could be in $50,000 or, whatever your budget is, but ground up, there's a lot more steps and a lot more hoops to jump through in terms of getting the project finished and completed.
But would you say that you enjoyed it, and would you do it again?
Yes, I would. I am doing it again. I'm doing it in Dallas. So absolutely, I would do it again. Know your numbers. Make sure that if you go over time, that you're still going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself a huge spread in terms of how much money you can make. Make sure that if you go over 6 months, you're still going to be fine to make some money. And if you get to that point where maybe you don't have that much of a cushion anymore because it's taken so long, think about holding and renting for a year and letting it appreciate and then selling. But the reward of seeing these beautiful craftsman style houses with these beautiful stained doors on this little quiet street in Honey Grove, it just warms your heart. And I set out to do this with the intention and with the goal to help people in Honey Grove who didn't have housing, who needed rentals. Their long-term rentals, I'm trying to keep them for myself to rent to those who can't afford housing. Mm-hmm. And I'm leasing them. And I just got word this week that tornado victims from West Texas are displaced and need a place to stay. And I'm renting my 3 homes to them.
Oh, how wonderful.
So I'm so pleased. It's so rewarding. I couldn't be happier. And at that, I'm getting them rented at $750 more than what I asked.
Wow.
I couldn't be happier.
That's awesome.
You walk through the trenches.
Win-win right there.
Mm-hmm.
Win-win.
It is. Love the trenches, but it's worth it in the end.
So
Wow.
Mindy, I'm curious, you said we should talk more about like how you pick the design of the house. So did you have to work with an architect? Did you flip through plans that already exist? How do you find the design of the property?
Picking house plans 101 from Mindy, what not to do.
Okay.
I went to Etsy and I found a cute picture of a house that had house plans and I bought it. Don't ever do that.
Oh.
They worked out and we went with it, but what I didn't know was there was lacking framing details. There was they had the house framed out in 2x6s rather than 2x4s. My contractor didn't question it and put 2x6s in the entire houses. That cost so much more money. And I had no idea. I just picked a cute house.
Yeah.
No, make sure that and so the Dallas house, I did it very differently. I did it from professionals. I didn't go to an architect. I did go to houseplans.com. They work a lot in Dallas.
Yeah.
I got a super modern one. They've been very helpful in getting AutoCAD drawings, elevations, framing, and that sort of thing. So don't just pick the pretty ones. Yeah. Make sure it's a real, true, authentic house plan. That is my advice on house plans.
Agree. Well, what advice would you give someone who is thinking about becoming a developer like yourself?
Well, I thought about that too. And I think the best advice I can give is make sure you have your systems in place. Make sure you have your documents signed. Make sure your budget is where you can extend if you have to. All the things that you teach us in class. Make sure you have those in line. And then get ready for more unexpected things to come up than you would maybe in a flip. More time than you would think maybe in a flip. Also, I would give advice that think of things that you maybe wouldn't normally think of in a regular flip because the house is existing. So in my Dallas house, we found that we're in a flood zone. I didn't know that when I bought the house. It's not the end of the world. It's not meaning I'm now in foreclosure. No, none of that. It just means we have to adjust the elevation. We have to jump through a few hoops. So think about flood zones. Think about things that are outside of your normal everyday flip scenarios. And just be ready. Just be ready for unexpected and just know that they're coming and flow with it as best you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't freak out. Just
don't freak out.
Yep.
And I think one other piece of advice I would give that's been helpful to me, just in ordering, I have turned to Amazon Business. And I don't know if we've talked about that much in the network, but Amazon Business is huge. If you gals don't have it, get it. I type it all in and it shows up. I've got a garage full of plumbing supplies right now and two tubs and all the things. That's a great place and a great resource to go to if you need building supplies.
Did you have any delays due to supplies? Because everybody was talking about that for a while. And what did you experience when it came to your new build? And
for those, I didn't so much because they were kind of cookie cutter. We did wait for windows and we did wait some for lumber. But with Dallas, as I pivoted and learned from those experiences, I ordered windows already. We haven't even broken ground. The windows are ordered. The cabinets are ordered. The plumbing's here. So windows are about, Tresa, you could tell us too, but windows I'm telling from my custom, if they're custom, they're about 16 to 18 to 20 weeks out, depending. Custom cabinetry is 20 weeks out. So you have to be ahead of the game, proactive, get it done, get it ordered. And then if you have it and it's sitting in your garage for 6 months while you wait for it, who cares?
That's right. Yeah.
But
that is appliances. I haven't ordered any appliance in the last 90 days, but prior to that, appliances were, especially higher end appliances, taking a good 16, 18 weeks to get in. And
that's
some
right.
doors, if you have, if it's not a standard door, they could take a while. So
Yep. Both of those are two things I've done for the Dallas house. The appliances are ordered. The cafe appliances, they're coming, but again, they're back order too. Just get it all done while you're waiting for those dang permits.
That's
you got time.
There you go. Well, on that note, what do you do to keep your mindset right as an investor when things don't go according to plan?
And they won't. And sometimes there's crap days, and we all know that. We've all felt those days where you're just crying and you just think it's not going to work out, but it always does. But something that I think that I try to do every day is just set my intention in the morning, like we've talked about, clearing my mind, saying, this is what I intend to do for today. I've got this. I know exactly what to do. And just, if something comes up, because let me say that again. When something comes up, I try to take just a tiny bit step back from the situation and just breathe. I just try to sit and do nothing but breathe, because I'm the type of person who is very reactive. You're going to get mad at me. Guess what? I'm going to text you so fast, you're not going to believe what I have to say. And I'm learning in this process that I just need to breathe. Sit in whatever emotion it is, whether it's anger or frustration or, whatever, sit in it until you breathe it out, or until you feel a little bit of lift to where you can then respond, not react.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I really try to do. And then I try to think, what am I supposed to learn from this? What is it that this is presenting that I can do better next time? So awesome. I do try to think about that. And then if I can't get out of that frustration, then I just try to envision myself being in a different mindset, and then hopefully just feeling that, and it can kind of at least lift me up one step, if not more.
That's great. Good. Yeah, that's great. I think you called it figuring out what is the lesson here. And I think that lessons will repeat themselves until we learn them. We will find ourselves in that same frustration.
We do.
Yeah. Well, tell me, you joined the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and our mentorship. Was it April of last year?
It was.
Yeah. So tell me what has been the most helpful thing to you being part of the network and the mentorship?
First and foremost, just learning the things that you're teaching and having that communication of, you can do this, and here's what to do, and having the stepping stones of how to get there. Because I had the remodeling skills, I had the design skills, I had the drive and the ambition, right? But I don't know how to flip a house. I don't know how to do this with everybody else's money. I don't know how to get so those keys, fundamentals were huge in the beginning. And from there, it grew into partnerships. It grew into a community. It grew into, I text one gal who lives in Salt Lake. She doesn't even live here. And we're like, hey, dang this, or have you heard about that? Can you help me here? And there's a community of support that I just find invaluable. I'm so blessed and grateful for you, Tresa, for allowing me to be sitting in this chair and have 8 properties and just be crazy. And I love that. So
well, you are so welcome. And I love, nothing makes me happier than to see students come through and then go out and use the knowledge and go out there and do it. And you have built a community, and you were just in my office here for Gigi's book.
I was signing. So great that night.
Yeah, and I love just hearing your story, and you have done some awesome things. So what are you working on next, and what are your goals for the future?
Oh man, so many things. The luxury Dallas build is on the to-do list, ASAP to-do list. From there, our partners and we're in a mastermind to figure out how to do syndications for apartments. We want the tax breaks from that. And we want to, first of all, follow the steps of investing passively and then investing in actively and managing. We're looking at actually about 10 different properties right now that we're evaluating to see if we can purchase. So myself and my 4 partners from your network are together, and we're learning how to do it. And we're kind of just going to that next step, and we're strategizing, doing, getting ready for tax breaks and all of that thing. So we're going bigger.
Yes, you are.
Next year.
Love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I know that our listeners are thinking bigger and outside of the box, and I love that. And
I
so
hope they do.
you are. So we love to ask our guests 3 takeaways. So what 3 things would you advise an investor or entrepreneur who is looking to be brave and grow, or is perhaps feeling stuck where they are?
My first takeaway is follow the excitement. If you feel it in your gut, if you know deep down inside when you're 7 watching This Old House that it is in your blood, follow that excitement. Go for it. Just jump in. Do something. I think I bought 4 or 5 right off the bat. I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm like, yep, we're in. We're going for it. Just follow the excitement wherever it leads you. The second thing I would say is say yes to as many things you possibly can. And as you do that, it's hard, it's scary, but as you do that, your opportunities and your network and yourself and your growth expand and doors open that you never thought they would. So I always try to say yes to everything, even if you are sweating or you're scared or you're nervous. Do it anyway. Do it anyway.
So good.
Thank you. The last thing I would say is I talk to lots of women and they're scared, they're nervous, they're holding back. And I would say don't, and many people have said it before, I would say don't let the fear hold you back or stop you. I certainly didn't. I went headfirst into the deep end. But I think fear is excitement without breath. For me, that's how I see it. And I think that it often means for me when I feel fear or anxious that I'm on the right path. Yep. That it is something that is going to now make me expand and make me better and make me bigger and is valuable to my life. So I don't look at fear as something to stop me, but something to push me forward.
Oh, you're speaking my language. I absolutely love it. Yeah. If we could live our entire life stopping every time we have fear or never pushing forward, we're just going to live this small life that we're going to regret. But if you want to be successful and filled with life and joy, just like you said, then it is always going to include doing things afraid.
That's right. That's where the growth happens. When you're doing it and you're afraid, that is where the growth happens. That is the whole reason and flow of life.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Mindy, thank you so much for joining us today. I think you're inspiring a lot of people with your stories and how brave you're being as an investor and figuring this thing out. Yeah. On behalf of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and Tresa Todd, I'm Andrea Engstrom, encouraging you all to be brave and dream big.